The indictment reads like the acts of a serial sexual predator. 6 victims, 9 counts, criminal sexual abuse, women who were forcibly touched, orally violated. The alleged perpetrator, a respected OBGYN at New York Presbyterian Columbia University Medical Center, accused of assaulting his own patients. But Dr. Robert Haddon served no jail time for his crimes. He cut a deal with the DA's office in New York and pleaded guilty to just 2 charges. He lost his medical license, but doesn't even appear on the public sex offender registry.
There's clear evidence of a pattern of bad behavior by the doctor, a lack of institutional courage by his employer, Columbia University, and a lack of willingness to take the case seriously by the Manhattan District Attorney. Everyone did the best they could to make it go away.
Marissa Hochstetter is one of dozens of accusers now suing Haddon and his former hospital network. The lawsuit alleges Columbia allowed Dr. Robert Haddon unfettered access to female patients, many of them as young as 15 or 16, and that he had been assaulting women for decades, while some staff, co-workers, and even patient chaperones looked the other way. A nurse tried to send out a warning in the early 90s, but was told to be quiet. And one patient told another doctor in the practice Haddon said she had a medical condition requiring her vagina to be examined every 3 months. It wasn't true. Hochstetter's attorney is Anthony DiPietro. He represents 32 women and counting who say they too were victims of Dr. Haddon.
Not a day in prison?
Nothing.
Does that make sense to you?
No community service, no fine, no jail time. He received what seems to be the equivalent of an early paid retirement.
Why?
He worked at Columbia University.
Got away with it.
Got away with it.
It's like getting, slapped in the face and punched in the gut. The DA's office is meant to protect us, is meant to serve justice, and there was no justice here.
Evelyn Yang, the wife of Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang, described her own experience to CNN's Dana Bash. She says her assault could have been prevented because Haddon had been arrested before and Columbia University knew it. In June 2012, police were called to his clinic after a woman reported being assaulted in an exam room. Despite the arrest, Haddon went back to work. Patients weren't told the OBGYN they were seeing had been accused of sex crimes. And in the weeks that followed, 2 of those patients would become his next alleged victims. Evelyn Yang was one of them.
Can you imagine the audacity of a man who does this, continues to do this after being arrested? It's like he knew that he wouldn't face any repercussions. I was in the exam room and I was dressed and ready to go, and then at the last minute he kind of made him like an excuse. He said something about, I think you might need a C-section. And he proceeded to grab me over to him and undress me and examine me internally, ungloved. And at first, I was a little bit like, what's going on here?
And there was no one else in the room?
No. In fact, when I think back to most of our exams, I don't think there was somebody in the room. I imagined myself as someone being, like I would throw a chair at him and run out yelling bloody murder. It's not what happened. I was confused, and then I realized what was happening, and then I just kind of froze. Like a deer in headlights, just frozen. I knew it was happening. I remember trying to fix my eyes on a spot on the wall and just trying to avoid seeing his face as he was assaulting me. Just waiting for it to be over.
Did you tell your husband, Andrew?
No. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I I didn't tell Andrew or my family because I didn't want to upset them.
The doctor's arrest was voided. He wouldn't be charged with any crime for another 2 years while the DA's office investigated. Haddon hired a powerful and connected attorney, Isabel Kirshner, a former colleague of Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance. Kirshner had donated to Vance's political campaign and worked on his transition team. Both she and the New York District Attorney's Office claimed the relationship had nothing to do with the plea deal, but the original recommendation for Haddon to serve at least 4 years behind bars would be reduced to nothing. The DA's office even agreed to lower Haddon's sex offender status. He wouldn't appear on the public registry, though he was convicted of a felony. Kirshner told CNN Haddon had great lawyering and even brags about the win on her website. It's yet another case raising questions about the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, already under scrutiny for failing to prosecute Harvey Weinstein in 2015 and asking a judge to lower Jeffrey Epstein's sex offender status. Drew Griffin, CNN, Atlanta.